friends, welcome to the farmhouse. Today's video is a little bit different than most videos that I do. Most videos I do are a how-to, but today I'm just going to be baking with my son. He's 4 years old and he loves to cook with me. So I just did that on video today and kind of showed you how I do that and how I work out baking with kids. And he really loves it. He also loves to be on video, so he'll wave at you a few times. Then I'll be doing a little bit of cleaning and making a fresh homemade vegetable soup with hamburger for the family. Come along. I hope you enjoy spending a little time with me in the farmhouse. Good morning. Today I am just taking along with me as I cook with my family and for my family. First, I am going to grind some einkorn flour. I love this old wheat grinder. It was actually my great-grandmother's. It is a stone wheel wheat grinder. It's got two stones in there that go together and grind the einkorn berries into really fine flour. It works great, and it's over 100 years old. It does need a little TLC on the outside to make it look pretty, but it works excellent. And today I'm going to be making rolls with my 4-year-old Benton, who loves to cook with me. He does really good at cracking the eggs for me, stirring things, adding ingredients. I just measure for him, and that's something that we can do together that he really enjoys. So usually when I make rolls, I will make, especially when I make whole wheat rolls, I usually add all-purpose flour so that it's not as dense. But today I'm out, so I'm just using 100% einkorn flour in this roll recipe, and I'm also using up some honey, or trying to use up some honey. I do buy honey in bulk locally from our local honey store and local farmers so that I can get the health benefits of local honey. But I've had this honey for a couple years now and it's starting to crystallize, so I had to heat it up in the microwave to be able to pour it because it was crystallizing in the jar. But I'm getting it used up, and so this recipe is, because it's fresh ground einkorn flour, there's about 6 cups of flour there, half a cup of honey, and then today I am doing this with commercial yeast instead of sourdough, which I would usually use just because my sourdough starter wasn't ready. It had been in the refrigerator. And then to this recipe I add about 1.5 teaspoons of salt and a cube of butter, which is 1/4 cube of butter, and that is softened, and then 1 egg. And the yeast mixture is half a cup of milk, half a cup of water that's warm with a teaspoon of sugar in there, and then you add a couple teaspoons of yeast. This is super thick. Usually I would bring it together in my bowl and then be able to knead it, but because of the honey and the all whole wheat flour, it's just a really sticky dough. So we're going to mix it as good as we can here, but I actually end up putting it into my KitchenAid and letting that do the work for me, and it comes together really nicely. So I'll also show you here, it pulls apart when it's done kneading from the sides of the pan, and then you know you have kneaded it enough when you get the window pane effect, which basically is you can stretch it, pull it up and stretch it, and it doesn't break apart. You can basically see through the dough, and like a window pane, you can see through it. It will let light through. So this actually turned out really good. It's very honey-y because I used so much honey in the recipe, and it's a little bit more sticky. So to be able to handle this dough, I put about 1 teaspoon of olive oil on my hands before touching it. And then here you can see how the window paning effect, and that just shows you that the gluten has developed as it has been kneaded, and then it's good to go for making nice soft rolls. I let my dough rise on top of my stove. I can also put it inside the stove. I do have pilot lights under each burner, and they're mini pilot lights, so they're super small, but they do make it nice and warm. And then inside the stove also has pilot lights, so it's always nice and warm. It's a great place to raise bread. If you are a baker and love baking with yeast or sourdough, These old ovens with pilot lights are just the best. And then just clean it up a little bit. I like to clean as I go in the kitchen, and I always like to have a clean kitchen when I'm cooking. Even though I do have 6 kids and it gets to be a huge mess in here, it just helps me to be able to relax and enjoy baking when my kitchen is clean. It's always just way more relaxing and enjoyable to cook when you can cook in a clean kitchen. My kids and my husband are usually pretty sweet. If I make dinner, then Darren will usually get some of the kids and do the dishes for me so that I don't have to do the dishes after making dinner. But I do like it to be clean while I'm cooking and before I start making dinner, just so that I can actually enjoy it and not feel stressed out. So this recipe did not rise as much as I thought it would. I only used 1 tablespoon of yeast in this batch of rolls, and honestly I should have used 2. They still rose and they were still good, but they were probably about half as fluffy as my rolls usually are. So that's just because I'm not very practiced at using commercialized yeast anymore these days. I'm usually always using sourdough, but they were still really good, super sweet and very satisfying and filling. My grandma Evie taught me how to shape rolls really easily. She would make huge cookie sheets full of rolls for family reunions and family gatherings, and she had a really easy way to shape them. Instead of having to cut them into equal parts and then shape them, she just pinches them off between her pointer finger and her thumb, and they're all about the same size, and it stretches them and puts tension onto the roll for you when you do that. And all you have to do is close up the back end a little bit. So I'm just showing you here how I do that. Makes for perfect shaped rolls, and the process goes a lot faster this way. Then when you're done, you just let them rise again until they're a little poofy, and put them in a 350 degree oven and let them bake for about 20 to 30 minutes depending on your oven. And now I'm just getting ready to make some soup for dinner to go with these rolls. I'm trying to use up everything in my refrigerator, and so I just am putting together the vegetables I had. So I had a few carrots, a few Yukon Gold potatoes, an onion, and I am going to make a soup with some bone broth. That I didn't have any homemade bone broth, so it's actually store-bought bone broth, but it's organic and really good quality. And then I am going to fry some hamburger up and add that. I'm also using some fresh herbs, so thyme and rosemary seem to be my favorites right now. So I add those to it. Let these vegetables simmer in the bone broth with some herbs until they're tender. And then I'm actually going to add some tomato sauce to that and have it be a tomato-based soup. Kind of like a minestrone. And then I will add some noodles to that also. And these noodles are organic noodles. I actually got them from Costco. And they actually got a lot bigger when they were cooking than I thought that they would. But they turned out really good. My family loved it. It was more like a stew. It was so thick just because the noodles got so big. And really, I only put in about a cup to a cup and a half of noodles. They just got so much bigger than I thought that they would while it was cooking. I actually really enjoy just chopping vegetables. It's relaxing as long as my kitchen's clean, and makes me feel like I'm nourishing my family with healthy, fresh vegetables and herbs, and it also smells really good, and so it's just really relaxing and something that I really enjoy doing. I love making soup, especially in the fall and the winter time. And we have had a cold spring this year. It snowed just a few days ago before recording this, so soup is still good here. but I think within the next month or so, I will be done making soup for the rest of the year, but we are enjoying it this last time. I have been using thyme and rosemary in so many recipes lately, and honestly, they smell so good and so fresh when you start chopping them up and combining them with salt and garlic and other ingredients, and they just give a wonderful flavor to a lot of dishes. I would usually saute these in a little bit of oil first, especially start out making a soup with like onions and garlic and sauteing them first, but I have been having gallstone problems, so I am avoiding using oil in my soup. I also will not be eating it after I put the hamburger in it. I just dished myself out a bowl before I added the hamburger, but my family loves this hamburger. It's super high quality. We get a half a cow about every year from Y1 Farms, and it is prime beef, and it's just finished really well. It is grass-fed and grain finished, which I think has a much superior taste than grass-fed, grass-finished. So I am just frying up 1 pound of this delicious hamburger, and I will add that to the soup for my family to enjoy as a protein. I always like to add a little something fresh at the end, and so I just chopped up a couple cups of baby spinach, and right before serving this, I am going to toss this baby spinach into the pot of already cooked finished soup and just give my family a little bit more nourishment and a pop of color. Before I do that, I am adding these noodles, and they are really good noodles. They do almost quadruple in size after you cook them though, so you've got to be prepared for that. I probably, if I didn't known better, I probably would have only used like a half a cup of noodles. So in goes the fresh spinach, and then I just give that a little stir and let those spinach leaves wilt down a little bit before I serve it. But actually, this is before I added the hamburger. So after this point is when I dished myself out a bowl of soup, and then I added the hamburger for my family. And it was really like a minestrone, but honestly it wasn't as brothy because the noodles, I just put so many noodles in that it was a lot thicker of a soup, but more satisfying, and my family enjoyed it, so it was good. And adding that hamburger in just adds a lot of protein, which makes it that much more satisfying. I like to be able to cook with just the ingredients I have in my kitchen and not having to go to the store for anything extra, so soup is always wonderful for that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe and watching me do a little homemaking today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We'll see you next time.